And coming up on the wrap tonight, the president gets bad news regarding his Iran deal. This time not from Republicans. We'll tell you from whom. Hillary Clinton planning to announce on Sunday she is running for president. We'll tell you where she plans to announce. And Geraldo thinks South Carolina police officer who shot an unarmed black man will not face murder charges. We'll tell you why. We'll discuss all that, plus yay or nay, potluck, and Heather's veal Marcella recipe. This is the Daily Wrap, live from New York City. And welcome to the Wrap, everybody. I'm Joe Concha, and joining me as usual is SiriusXM host, Forbes columnist, and the man voted most likely in high school to one day have his own radio show, column, and TV program. Yeah. Co-host Rick Unger.
I just came back from the NRA convention, and boy, am I arms
Good
tired.
for you. You're fired up, huh?
Yeah.
Anyway, joining us again after a brief hiatus, because when Maxim magazine calls for a cover shoot, there is no saying no.
That's right.
Heather Hansen is back, and finally, he's Forbes.com contributor and one hell of a nice guy until you get to know him. Bill Tucker is back. Okay, enough small talk. Let's get right to the daily download.
This week, together with our allies and partners, we reached a historic understanding with Iran, which, if fully implemented, will prevent it from obtaining a nuclear weapon and make our country, our allies, and our world safer. This framework is the result of tough, principled diplomacy. It's a good deal, a deal that meets our core objectives, including strict limitations on Iran's program and cutting off every pathway that Iran could take to develop a nuclear weapon.
And that was President Obama announcing an historic deal, the framework anyway, with Iran to limit their nuclear capabilities for at least a decade. Here's more from that end zone dance.
This deal denies Iran the plutonium necessary to build a bomb. It shuts down Iran's path to a bomb using enriched uranium. Iran has agreed that it will not stockpile the materials needed to build a weapon. Moreover, international inspectors will have unprecedented access to Iran's nuclear program, because Iran will face more inspections than any other country in the world.
Okay, sounds good to me, but what does Iran think of the pseudo-agreement? Well, today, that country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, finally spoke about the deal after exhausting his thumbs on the Twitter. And according to the Weekly Standard, quote, Khamenei accused the Obama administration of lying about the proposed terms, being, quote, deceptive and having devilish intentions, according to multiple published accounts of his speech, as well as his post on the aforementioned Twitter feed. Rutrow, the Ayatollah, doesn't even agree to the deal's most basic framework, that sanctions will be lifted once inspectors verify Iran has done their part. The Ayatollah also saying sanctions would have been lifted as soon as the agreement is signed, which is not what the Obama administration is saying. According to Reuters, the affable Ayatollah declaring, quote, the White House put out a statement just a few hours after our negotiators finished their talks. This statement, which is called a fact sheet, was wrong on most of the issues. How about those inspections the president promised? The supreme leader had some thoughts about that as well, and he took to, you guessed it, the Twitter, saying, quote, no unconventional inspection that placed Iran under special monitoring is acceptable. Foreign monitoring on hashtag Iran security isn't allowed. Oh boy. So he's really good at using those hashtags. Anyway, I digress. Senator John McCain proving to be prophetic on the matter, saying this earlier this week on Hugh Hewitt's radio show.
John Kerry is delusional. And he came back, in my view, I think you're going to find out that they had never agreed to the things that John Kerry claimed that they had. So in a way, I can't blame the Ayatollah, because I don't think they ever agreed to it, and I think John Kerry tried to come back and sell a bill of goods, hoping maybe that the Iranians wouldn't say much about it. But look, it's delusional.
Man, Could we find a more get off my lawn photo to run with John McCain than that one? He looks like a nice guy. He looks so angry there. Anyway, gang, this seems to be a major foreign policy embarrassment for the president. What do you think, Mr. Tucker?
Well, you know, we had this conversation a week and a half ago. Why are we holding these negotiations? Why are we talking to these people? And what do we hope to get out of it? And now we know we hope to get an illusion to sell to the American people. And I don't know what motivated the Ayatollah to come out today and say, hey, this is not true. I've thought about that a lot because I want to know where that comes from. But
Heather, is this all bravado? In other words, who has the real power within Iran? I mean, I know he's the supreme leader, but is this just all talk just to kind of satisfy his so-called base when really the folks that were in the negotiating room ultimately have the final say?
I'm sure that is part of it. You know, their culture is a lot of face saving, and there's a lot of that goes into all of these negotiations. But the unfortunate reality is that we need to know what the agreement is so that we can decide, we being our Congress, can decide whether or not to go forward with it. I do think that this is going to benefit those in Congress who want to have a say when they vote on this next week to determine whether or not this is actually going to pass without their say-so. I think it's more likely to override President Obama's veto now than it ever was.
Rick, you're in full agreement as well, I would imagine.
I'm getting such a kick out of this. I've never seen so many people in the United States willing to agree with the supreme commander or whatever the hell he is of Iran, supreme leader. Guys, I don't know if you know this, but they have politics in Iran too. Now, if you happen to notice this, a great article was published in the New York Times about 2 days ago by David Sanger. Here's what actually happened. We now know from John Brennan, who runs the CIA. The president of Iran convinced the supreme leader back at the beginning of all this that if they didn't cut a deal with the West, that the economy was going to totally go down. So the supreme leader says, well, then go ahead. What they're doing now, and it's fascinating, all of the hardliners in Iran have lined up behind the deal, except the supreme leader now comes out and says, oh no, this is devil stuff. Guys, this is pure politics. The supreme leader is actually helping Congress to say yes, because they're going to sit there and they're going to go, hey, wait a minute, if he's so against it, then maybe I should be for it. It is.
I disagree.
You can be disagree, but it is
We'll
as
see.
pure politics as it gets. I don't know if this deal is ever going to happen. Doesn't matter if you like it or don't like it. But if you're missing the pure politics here, frankly, you're missing all the fun.
It's one thing to say interpretation, though, but the biggest sticking point appears to be if we can't verify, right, then the economic sanctions never are lifted. They're saying day one.
Here's the problem, and this is where Senator McCain
10
ought to
seconds.
take a serious chill pill. The French had a few disagreements with our interpretation, but they were generally in line with it. So are they lying too, the French? I don't think so.
No one's saying they're lying. We're
Yes,
just saying there
they
might
are.
be some
He's saying
misinterpretations
they're
here.
lying and
Coming
everybody
up
wants
next,
to buy into
Ricky, a major political figure will announce her intention to run for president. You'll never guess where. This is the Daily Wrap, only on Newsmax.